all our students out there, please watch, understand, remember us and try to support us. Then your line of management, your dean or your vice chancellors have their own networks. So make sure you understand their networks. How can you benefit from their networks? How can you find some synergies between their networks and your networks? Then obviously you need money, and this is no fun. If you need new equipment, you're going to have to go through a procurement difficult stage with loads of paperwork, and as soon as you ask for money, things become complicated. So you need the support of your stakeholders internally to get this money. For example, the equipment that I've got right here was quite expensive. It took me about 2 years to go through this procurement process to get a digital system to replace the analog system. Then, and I would say this with a smile, show off. Don't be shy. Don't be the best kept secret. Everybody needs to know about you. Every single opportunity that you may have to showcase what you do, engage with it. For example, we've got an annual teaching and learning conference. I always present something on interpreting and what we do. If we've got an event that needs interpreting, we provide our students. We try to explain what interpreting is about. So show off. You will never show off enough. People have got a lot on their mind. Universities are complex settings with loads of subjects. You need to be there at all times. And then finally, try to make stakeholders understand that you are contributing to the high reputation of the organization. So if you're portraying the quality of what you do within the bigger picture of the university, then I think you're gaining something, you're onto something. So this is what I recommend you in terms of internal communication. So now let's move on to communication with external stakeholders. So to start with, we are in the 21st century and you need to speak to the world, and the world could be anyone, and we've got some fantastic tools to do this. You've got social media. I'm not sure what your networks are in the part of the world, but here at London Metropolitan University we use Twitter. We have a Facebook page, for example. We've got a website. So use the internet. Make sure that when we Google your institution, or when we Google the name of the profession that you engage with, you come up. If you don't come up, something's wrong. You need to look at this again. Then try to see who represents your profession at national and international level, and then engage with them, try to connect with them, invite them to your university. They need to be part of what you do. You need their recognition. That's quite important. Finally, well, actually it's not finally, but it seems like a final point to me, because maybe that's the most difficult part of the engagement at external level. Try to engage with your competitors. Your competitors may stop you from doing certain things. They may try to make your life difficult. They may seem as if they're doing much better than you're doing. Try not to be offended with that. On the contrary, embrace the competition, spy their website, try to figure out what they do, attend their events, and try to find some common grounds to discuss, to organize meetings, to organize events, so that they can be with you and you can come on board and go beyond competition and engage in a form of collaboration. I think that's difficult to achieve, but it's important that you think about this. Then obviously you've got to engage with your graduates in the profession. You've got to engage with the funding bodies. We talked about finance. Don't forget that you're a university. There are some researchers in your area. Try to also make sure that within your curriculum there is scope for research, so that you can engage with them as well. And finally, do not lose sight of decision makers. Decision makers at national and international level are absolutely essential. You may make fantastic presentations and preach in your own courtyard, basically, in your own church, but if these people can't make decisions, okay, that's very nice, but it's not going to make a big difference to you. So communication internally and externally, that is absolutely essential to what you do. Don't be shy, show off. People need to be reminded where you are, what you do, and how well you do it. Then, finally, this is my last ingredient, my last value. We are talking about employability. We've talked quite a lot about employability. It needs to be much more than a word. You need to make things happen so that employability is highly visible on your course. For example, I suggest that you bring employers in. This week, for example, here at London Metropolitan University, we had special guests from the interpreting services of the United Nations from Vienna and the European Commission from Brussels. The employers are here and they monitor the quality of what you do. Students who get feedback from the employers have a sense of direction. They can see that the potential employers are real people. They can talk to them, they have engaged, they know who to contact. So employers need to come in, they need to be visible, they need to have a voice, and they need to interact with the students, the staff, and the management. This is absolutely essential. And you've got a slide of photos in your presentation where you can see employers giving feedback to students' presentation. I'd like to say that interpreters tend to be self-employed. So all teachers who teach on the course are active professional interpreters. And as self-employed interpreters, they usually are the best employers of colleagues, other students as well who are going to start on the market. So for students, their teachers could be their first employers. So this is also quite important. So bring the employers in. However, you make sure you get the students out. So I'm sure your university is a very comfortable setting with loads of facilities, but you tend to learn quite a lot by getting students out to places of employment. Try to integrate some placement, for example, and integrate that as part of the course. Personally, I take groups of students, it can be a selective process, to the Court of Justice of the European Union in Luxembourg. We see interpreters at work during court hearings at quite high level. Then, in 2 weeks' time, I'm taking 12 students to the European Commission. This time they are going to have a presentation about the European Commission. They don't know it yet, but I've organized a mock test to see if they've got the right level to be accredited by the European Commission. Then, in the second day, they will attend real meetings at the European Commission, and they will have an opportunity to practice interpreting in dummy booth. The students will also go to the United Nations in Geneva, first in June, and in Vienna in September. So as you can see, students go out to meet employers, to understand the employment environment as well. When I go there, I absolutely love it because their professional environment changes all the time, and I try to bring these changes to our teaching settings and to include these environments to our daily professional setting here. To give you an idea, for example, on Monday, our colleague from the United Nations brought some very difficult official statements from heads of states. And this is not the kind of material we've been working on so far. So as a result of this visit, we've now decided to include this kind of very difficult statement in the curriculum, so that students are much more aware of these difficult documents. Then, if you've got the right technology, you may want to think about virtual classes. We have virtual classes with 10 universities across the world. Virtual classes are not expensive to run. You simply need a video conferencing system and a good internet connection. Students are able to practice with colleagues from the European Commission, the United Nations, and loads of other universities that provide the same language combinations as we do. So, as you can see here, virtually, you can create a space where we work together. It's a unique setting, but again, it's a setting where employers meet maybe potential employees. It's a stressful setting for students, so they know how to prepare themselves in a professional setting, how to manage their nerves, and I think that's quite important. I've given you a slide with a number of pictures where you can see what virtual classes look like. I think what I'm trying to say here is try to create a professional environment at all time, and I have to say at any cost. And when I'm talking about cost, I'm not talking about money. For example, I gave you a slide here where you can see that our equipment was changed a number of years ago, and we heard that there was a course in Ghana, a course in conference interpreting that was about to start. They didn't have any equipment. Well, with the United Nations, we managed to send them our analog conference interpreting equipment so that they could start their course. So you can see here that as a result of networking, another course could begin without having to finance a very expensive piece of equipment here. So you've got a few pictures here. Your professional environment needs to feel professional for students. When they come in the morning, it's not a classroom, this is a meeting. This is why we organize mock conferences. This is why we really demand that students arrive on time as if they were attending a professional assignment. But don't forget that we all like to have fun, and it's also important to create a space where students collaborate, get to know one another, support one another. So we tend to go out with students. We've got a pub across the road. We've got a social lunch at the beginning of the curriculum. Students go out by themselves. Obviously, they organize pizzas and all kinds of things. They need to know one another. They need to create this network. During the course, they will have loads of ups and downs. You don't want a course which is super selective and competitive. You want the competition to be high, but with a form of collaboration. Colleagues will understand that you can have a good day, a bad day. When it is a bad day, others support you. It is also important to create a collaborative environment so that students feel comfortable to exchange, ask questions, bounce questions and ideas at each other, and then new knowledge is formed. This new knowledge is not written in any book. It's something that you create as a result of this social interaction. So I would say that maybe that could be an additional ingredient, but I think I have included it in all my values. Make sure that you create a space where everybody is recognized, everybody's got a voice, everybody works together, and everyone feels welcome and valued. So let's conclude this presentation and start your conversation. My last slide summarizes all the values that we've mentioned. The first one being relevance, the second one quality, then we talked about adaptability, creativity, communication, and finally employability. I hope that you've managed to concentrate all this time. It was fairly long. I know that some of you do not have English as a first or second language. I hope I didn't speak too fast for you. I'm very happy to connect with you. So if you've got any questions, you've got my details. Alex can speak to you about what we do as we are colleagues and work together. The same thing applies for John, who used to be our dean for quite a number of years, and he understands this dynamic and synergies very well. I would like to wish you a very enjoyable, constructive session today and tomorrow, and I can only wish you the very best of luck. Thank you for your attention.